Welcome back, everyone. Okay, so let me continue with the types of opinion pieces. So to recap, we had praise, an opinion piece that praises some subject. We have the opinion piece that exposes a problem. And we have the call to action, which, as I mentioned earlier, this is an election year. You will read many calls to action as we get closer to Election Day in November. You can also call someone to action for the simplest of things, like if you live in a neighborhood where there's a community college, let's say, and maybe this happened once. People were taking their dogs out on Willowbrook and letting their dogs just poop anywhere, and people were tired of it, so they got together and they put signs up, and a couple of students wrote an editorial or an opinion piece about it, telling people, you should do something about this. People who have pets should take personal responsibility. Call to action. Do something. Improve the neighborhood. Another call to action that I've often seen that works well is, I guess last semester in the spring of 2020, it was rather difficult for students because they had to convert to online at a moment's notice. They got I think like a week during spring break, and then we all went remote. And so there were lots of opinions from students sharing and telling people, look, you can do this. We're here for a reason. It may seem very challenging at this moment, but we can get through the semester. It's quite touching, and they were sincere. But it was a call to action, come together, do this, let's study, let's get through this together. So call to action is a type of opinion piece or editorial. And finally, one of my favorites, I must say, not because I like to do this, but because students write the most interesting, compelling pieces. It is the takedown. The takedown is the opinion piece or the editorial where metaphorically you're in the corner and you come out swinging. You use your words to decimate some idea or some institution or some occurrence. The takedown. This is where from the headline you will know, trouble ahead. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, there is no ambiguity about where the person is going. They let you know how they feel about the subject very high up in the piece, as we say, or at the beginning. The takedown can be fun. It can be very serious. It just depends. I've seen humorous ones. So that is the fourth, the takedown. If you have an axe to grind, this is where you can do it. Use your words. Also, I should tell you that it's important in good opinion editorial writing that I make you understand in the beginning the difference between the two. This is written inside of Canvas and you'll see it again, but learning is repetition, so let me just mention it one more time. An opinion in the opinion editorial section is written generally by a reporter, and the reporter can use I, mine, yours, ours, us, all of the personal pronouns in an opinion piece. Not in other parts of the newspaper. That's not how things work. You will see it somewhere. In special sections, in the food section maybe, in sports sometimes. But generally, this is reserved for the opinion editorial section. So the opinion piece is normally written by a reporter, something the reporter is passionate about, some observation the reporter is making. The editorial, however, is written on behalf of the newspaper staff. The editorial is the way the newspaper staff speaks in one voice. It's It's generally how the newspaper staff feels. At the New York Times, for instance, you'll see different types of editorials than you'll see in the Wall Street Journal, which is a more conservative newspaper. So this is where you see the positions. You'll see how the board or how the staff of the newspaper is thinking, which you should not see from their regular news coverage in other sections. So please remember, the difference between an opinion and an editorial is the editorial expresses the views of the newspaper staff. It's the newspaper staff speaking in one voice. Opinions, however, are the opinion of one reporter, and usually or always in the Collegian. It includes the reporter's byline. The editorials in the Collegian sometimes will include the writer's byline, but generally, since it's the newspaper's opinion, we do not use a byline. It just says editorial or editorial staff above the editorial. So, there's something you might like to, if you're really interested in editorials, I'm going to tell you, make you appreciate them or think of them in a different way. Apparently, the Smithsonian Magazine published an article about the 10 top or the 10 most unforgettable editorials. And so I'll read from one or two of them, and it'll become familiar to you, I think. Yes, Virginia. Is there a Santa Claus? 8-year-old Virginia O'Hanlon asks the Sun of New York in a letter to the editor. Francis P. Church's answer, printed on September 21st, 1897, was a masterpiece of decisiveness. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus and evasion. He exists as certainly as love and generosity and devotion exist, and you know that they abound and give in your life its highest beauty and joy. Church's judgment that 1,000 years from now, Virginia, nay, 10 times 10,000 years from now, he will continue to make glad the heart of childhood, could also stand for his prose. So that's one. I'm sure you've heard of this letter to Santa Claus and Virginia. Another one that's, I don't care about this one as much, but I think that this is wonderful. This should resonate for you. Go west, young man. Horace Greeley's corollary to Manifest Destiny has stood for a century and a half, except Greeley seems never to have written or said it. Thomas Fuller, writing in the Indiana Magazine of History in September 2004, says the phrase occurs nowhere in Horace Greeley's New York Tribune. Fred Shapiro, editor of the Yale Book of Quotations, says it doesn't appear in Greeley's book Hints Toward Reform in 1850, a commonly cited source for the quote. An 1855 Greeley biography, Shapiro writes, records his counsel to aspiring young men as, turn your face to the great West, and there build up a home and fortune. So there's the difference between good advice and that phrase that is associated, go west, young man, with Horace Greeley. So that is in a very famous editorial. And there's another one I just think is so amazing. All of this is lost in history. Here's the headline: Ford to City, drop dead. Yes, it's a headline, not an editorial, but it reflects no mean exercise of editorial license by the New York Daily News, which put it on its front page of October 30th, 1975. The day before, President Gerald R. Ford did say he would veto any bill that has as its purpose a federal bailout of New York, because responsibility for the city's looming bankruptcy is being left on the front doorstep of the federal government, unwanted and abandoned by its real parents, whom he identified as city and New York state officials. So I was taken aback a little, because I mean, drop dead. Gerald Ford said that to New York City. Wow, that's pretty good. It's a little Trumpy, don't you think? It's like, wow. But, you know, we forget these things in the fullness of time. Well, when this happened, I wasn't paying any attention, but that's quite amazing, I thought. So if you're interested, take a note, because this is not in Canvas, the 10 unforgettable editorials. These editorial voices rose above the America clamor with words we will never forget. That's at smithsonianmag.com, and you can just search for it. And one of the best ones that is in here is definitely a journalistic coup de force, and that would be, or tour de force, and that would be the one by Thomas Paine, the revolutionary American journalist, who said, these are the times that try men's souls. I guess now you have to say, these are the times that try, well, we can't rewrite it. He said men only, sorry. These are the times that try men's souls. So that was also an editorial here. Tour de force, definitely. So go and look for that. So what about length of this first opinion or editorial that you're going to write? For the editorial, as you'll see per my instructions inside of Canvas, if you want to take, you know, your shot at an editorial, 400 words, 400 to 450. If you're going to write an opinion, which will have your byline on it, you will write 350 to 375. So that's what we're looking for. And you have your instructions. I would say when you pick, oh, I guess I've been talking too long. Okay, let me just say quickly. I would say when you pick your subject, you need to pick something that relates to students, something that students care about. You're writing for the Los Angeles Collegian, or you will be writing for your blog if it doesn't make publication in the newspaper. So for that reason, I say this is the student audience that you're writing for, the campus community, or people who live in the East Hollywood area even. If you see some issue in East Hollywood that you think should be brought to light, this is the perfect environment in which to write. Okay? All right, I can't wait to read these. I'm always so surprised and humbled because the students who come to Journalism 101 are often so brilliant and just so interesting and have such compelling things to write about. So I look forward to that, and I'll see you soon. If you have any questions, you can email me and we can talk about this. Take care. I'll see you online.